Ever wonder how a man who took 9 bullets turned disrespect into an Olympic sport? Before Instagram drama and Twitter beefs, there was Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, a rapper who built his empire not just on hit records, but on psychological warfare. The man who once rapped, "I'll still kill," wasn't just talking about violence. He was describing his talent for publicly dismantling anyone who dared cross him. For 2 decades, 50 Cent has turned humiliation into high art, and today, we're diving into over 100 times he embarrassed rappers so brutally, you might almost feel bad for them. Almost. It all started back in 1999, when a hungry kid from Queens dropped a record that would change hip-hop forever. Asterisk, How to Rob. Asterisk, the premise was insane. 50 literally listed every major rapper and R&B star of the era, describing exactly how he'd rob them. Jay-Z, Diddy, DMX, no one was safe. "I'll rob Puff Daddy," he rapped. "I'll rob ours ODB too, 'cause I'll rob him in front of his kids." The audacity was unmatched. But the brilliance wasn't just the concept, it was the strategy. 50 knew he was the underdog, so he weaponized it. He forced the biggest names in the game to say his name, to acknowledge him. And it worked. When Jay-Z fired back on "It's Hot, Some Like It Hot," with the now legendary line, "I'm about $1. What the F is 50 Cent?" Asterisk, that was 50's first win. He'd baited one of the greatest rappers alive into promoting him. No social media, no label backing, just pure psychological chess. Then came the Ja Rule era, easily one of the most one-sided beefs in hip-hop history. What began as a street altercation, Ja getting robbed and spotting 50 hanging with the guy who did it, exploded into open warfare. When 50 dropped Winksta, he didn't just diss Ja Rule, he rewired how fans viewed him. Overnight, Ja went from chart-topping gangster to soft R&B crooner. But 50 wasn't content to just win musically. He destroyed Ja Rule's image. The puppets, the memes, the relentless trolling. 50 Cent turned Ja into a permanent punchline. Even when Murder Incorporated faced legal issues, 50 was there, gleefully adding fuel to the fire. Decades later, he's still throwing shots. That's not a rivalry. That's a lifelong vendetta that turned one of the 2000s biggest stars into hip-hop's favorite joke. When most rappers made albums, 50 made weapons. Get Rich or Die Tryin' wasn't just a debut. It was an airstrike aimed straight at Murder Incorporated. Every track was loaded with venom, from Back Down to Asterisk, Many Men. Asterisk, and here's the genius part. While he mocked Ja Rule for being too melodic, 50 was quietly doing the same thing with songs like Asterisk, 21 Questions. Asterisk, the difference? 50 made it look authentic. He positioned himself as the street-certified version of what Ja was pretending to be. When the album went on to sell over 12 million copies, it wasn't just commercial success, it was revenge made profitable. 50 didn't just defeat Ja Rule, he replaced him. And then there was Young Buck, one of the earliest lessons in what happens when you fall out with 50 Cent. Once a loyal G-Unit soldier, Buck's split with 50 turned into a public execution. When Buck called 50 crying on the phone, begging to patch things up, 50 recorded the entire thing and released it. Imagine your old boss letting the world hear you sobbing. Brutal. But he didn't stop there. 50 kept dragging Buck online, accusing him of secret relationships and mocking his sexuality. Year after year, whenever Buck tried to rebuild his image, 50 would pop up to tear it back down. For him, beef wasn't temporary, it was forever. Then came the game. 50's former protege turned bitter rival. One minute, they were riding high on Asterisk, How We Do. Asterisk, the next, they were exchanging death threats. But that's a whole other saga in the story of how 50 Cent mastered the art of humiliation, not just beating opponents, but erasing them from hip-hop's hierarchy. By the time Hate It or Love It became a radio staple, the alliance between 50 Cent and the game had completely disintegrated, and their fallout went down as one of the most infamous feuds in rap history. Most artists would have just traded diss tracks, but 50 played on another level entirely. He didn't just cut Game off, he exiled him, live on the radio. In real time, 50 publicly removed the game from G-Unit, essentially trying to bury his career before it had even reached its peak. But here's where 50's genius for humiliation really came through. He didn't only attack Game's music, he dismantled his reputation. 50 accused him of adopting gang ties after fame, branding him as a studio-made gangster. He mocked his butterfly tattoo, turning it into an ongoing punchline, and painted Game as an ungrateful protege who betrayed the man who created him. It wasn't just a rap beef, it was a masterclass in character destruction. 50 wanted the world to believe Game wasn't real, that without 50 Cent, there would be no Game at all. When it came to Rick Ross, 50 went even darker. Instead of firing bars, he launched a full-blown psychological operation. 50 literally tracked down Ross's ex and the mother of his child, Tia Kemp, took her shopping, bought her gifts, and filmed the entire thing. He then sat her down for an interview where she called Ross broke and fake, all captured on camera for the world to see. Imagine your rival taking your ex to the mall just to publicly humiliate you. That's what 50 orchestrated.
And he didn't stop there.
50 later released a sex tape involving another of Ross's exes, complete with his own mocking commentary dubbed over it. The fallout landed him in legal trouble, but to 50, it was worth it. This wasn't about winning a battle, it was about publicly dismantling Ross's image, using his own family against him. That's not rap beef. That's psychological warfare. Before Many Men became the haunting anthem of survival we all know, the song had a completely different beat, more upbeat, less menacing. But 50 and Drive Dre realized those lyrics deserved something heavier. They swapped the instrumental at the last moment, giving us one of hip-hop's most haunting records. The result? A song that's inspired everyone from Pop Smoke to 21 Savage, a timeless anthem of vengeance and rebirth. And speaking of lyrical audacity, in How to Rob, 50 name-dropped a jaw-dropping 29 different artists, describing in graphic detail how he'd robbed them all. Jay-Z, Diddy, Missy Elliott, no one was off-limits. For an unknown rapper at the time, that was pure madness. But it also marked 50's arrival as a fearless disruptor who knew controversy was currency. Fat Joe learned that lesson the hard way. When Joe took Ja Rule's side during the Murder Incorporated feud, 50 put him on his permanent blacklist. Years later, in 2012, at the BET Hip Hop Awards, Joe stepped on stage to honor the late Chris Lighty, a man both he and 50 deeply respected. But instead of letting the moment be peaceful, 50 stood up and walked out mid-tribute. It wasn't subtle. It was deliberate. Even during a memorial for a mutual friend, 50 refused to let go of the grudge. The message was chillingly clear: no moment is sacred when it comes to revenge. And when 50 and Game's feud escalated further, 50 didn't just want to out-rap him. He wanted to erase him from history. Over and over, he claimed he wrote Game's biggest hits, including How We Do and *, Hate It or Love It. *, it wasn't about dissing the music, it was about attacking Game's identity as an artist. In hip-hop, where authenticity is everything, accusing someone of not writing their own songs is like cutting off their oxygen. 50 knew exactly what he was doing, and he made sure the wound never fully healed. Then came the legendary sales war with Kanye West in 2007, Curtis versus * Graduation. * when Kanye outsold him, most artists would have taken the L quietly. Not 50. He instantly flipped the script, claiming the whole competition was his idea, a genius marketing move to boost both of their numbers. It's classic 50 Cent logic. If he loses, he just rewrites the story, so he never actually lost. It's like finishing second in a race and saying, I built the track. And finally, there's DJ Khaled, who found out that 50's definition of revenge sometimes crosses into horror movie territory. After a petty disagreement, 50 didn't just drop a diss track. He showed up outside Khaled's mother's workplace, filming himself in front of the building. Calmly, he explained that he'd found out where she worked. It wasn't violence, it was intimidation through exposure, a move that blurred the line between trolling and terror. That's 50 Cent in a nutshell. The rare artist who doesn't just play the game of beef, he rewrites the rules entirely. Whether it's humiliating rivals, exposing secrets, or turning enemies into punchlines, he's proven again and again that his greatest weapon isn't a gun or a lyric, it's psychological domination. When 50 Cent set his sights on DJ Khaled, the results were straight out of a psychological thriller. After a minor industry slight, 50 decided to make a point, not with bars, but with fear. He filmed himself outside Khaled's mother's workplace, calmly explaining that he discovered where she worked. On her desk sat a name tag, captured clearly on camera, a chilling visual reminder that he could reach her anytime he wanted. What made the whole thing even more disturbing wasn't just the act itself, it was how 50 turned it into content. He edited and uploaded the footage as if it were just another skit, blurring the line between intimidation and entertainment. It wasn't just trolling anymore. It was a declaration. 50 was telling Khaled, asterisk, if I want to get to you, I can. Asterisk, the message was unmistakable and genuinely menacing. When Diddy and 50 crossed paths, the approach shifted from intimidation to insinuation. Instead of direct shots, 50 chose to chip away at Diddy's image with whispers and jokes about his sexuality. In the hypermasculine world of early 2000s hip-hop, where homophobia was rampant, these subtle digs carried weight. He didn't accuse, he implied. He'd drop suggestive comments in interviews, post memes online, and casually joke about Diddy's vibe, creating a slow-burning rumor mill that did far more damage than an outright diss ever could. It was manipulation at its most strategic, 50 exploiting the culture's own insecurities as a weapon. He knew exactly which buttons to press to make his rival squirm, using innuendo as ammunition. When 50 turned his sights on Cameron, the strategy became financial warfare. Their feud wasn't limited to words. It became a battle for branding dominance. In 2007, Cameron had built a whole identity around the color purple through his Dipset movement and Purple City aesthetic. 50, ever the opportunist, flooded the market with purple G-Unit merchandise before Cam's products could drop. The result? He hijacked Cam's color, undercut his merchandise, and profited off his opponent's own signature look. For 50, true victory wasn't about lyrical domination, it was about hitting enemies where it hurt most, their pockets. Behind the scenes, 50's obsession with control ran even deeper. Insiders have long whispered about something called the Revenge File, a private archive allegedly maintained by 50's team, filled with dirt on rivals and potential targets. Business moves, personal secrets, relationship drama, all cataloged for the perfect moment. It's not wild emotion that fuels his attacks, it's strategy. While others react in anger, 50 studies his enemies, identifies their weaknesses, and strikes surgically. His humiliations feel personal because they are each one designed to hit at the exact point of vulnerability. By 2008, as social media began changing the entertainment landscape, 50 was already ahead of everyone. He launched thisis50.com, a digital empire where he could post exclusive interviews, parody videos, and unflattering stories about rivals, all under his control. This wasn't just trolling, it was propaganda. In a world where media outlets tried to remain neutral, 50 built his own. Thisis50 became his personal information war machine, a one-man CNN for hip-hop conflict. He didn't just control the message, he became the media. It was one of the first examples of an artist weaponizing the internet to shape public perception, and, of course, to humiliate enemies on a global scale. Then there was Vivica A. Fox, the Hollywood star who learned the hard way that breaking up with 50 meant becoming long-term content. Years after their relationship ended, Vivica suggested on national TV that 50 might be gay. Big mistake. 50 unleashed a storm of memes, mocking her looks, age, and career every chance he got. What's fascinating isn't just his ruthlessness, it's his longevity. Most celebrity feuds fizzle out within weeks. 50's grudges? They live forever. He'd wait months, even years, to reignite the flame with a single Instagram post. For him, humiliation isn't a one-time event, it's a recurring performance. When it came to Murder Incorporated, 50 didn't stop at Ja Rule. He went after the label itself, and even its leadership. In interviews and lyrics, he accused CEO of Gotti and his associate Kenneth Supreme McGriff of money laundering and drug connections, pushing the narrative that Murder Incorporated was a front for criminal activity. Then reality blurred with rumor. Federal investigators really did target Murder Incorporated for money laundering allegations. Irv was eventually acquitted, but the public perception damage was irreversible. 50 seized on the moment, boasting that his words had triggered the investigation, painting himself not just as a rival, but as a force powerful enough to summon federal attention. Whether or not he had anything to do with the case didn't matter. What mattered was perception, and in the court of public opinion, perception is power. 50 had once again rewritten reality, turning narrative control into his deadliest weapon. Number 3, totally fake. But the fact that you couldn't tell shows just how wild and unpredictable 50's real statements can be. When Trey Songz said something 50 didn't like, 50 didn't rant or start a lyrical war. He simply posted that he'd spoken to Trey privately, and suddenly, Trey went silent. No comeback. No shade. Nothing. The message was crystal clear. Whatever 50 said off camera was enough to shut everything down. That's classic 50 Cent strategy. Make the surrender public, keep the threat private, and let the world imagine just how powerful your leverage must be. It's psychological warfare disguised as PR. Then came the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge in 2014, a global charity trend that 50 turned into another battlefield. Instead of nominating his ex-friend Floyd Mayweather normally, he challenged him to read one page of Harry Potter without stopping and offered $750,000 to charity if Floyd succeeded. Later, he downgraded it to * the Cat in the Hat. The genius? He wrapped pure humiliation inside a charitable act. Floyd either had to ignore it and look illiterate and heartless, or accept it and risk global embarrassment. 50 transformed a silly viral challenge into a no-win trap. When Hollywood producer Randall Emmett owed 50 Cent $1 million, 50 didn't call lawyers. He called Instagram. He leaked their text messages, including Randall's desperate, "Fafty, I'm headed to the ER, please." Typo. Within hours, * Fafty Cent * went viral. 50 dropped merch, t-shirts, memes, the works. And yes, Randall paid up by Monday. 50 turned a debt collection into a full-blown internet event and a masterclass in public humiliation. Even 50's feuds have story arcs. During his clash with Rick Ross, 50 didn't just diss him. He created a character called Pimpin' Curly, complete with wigs, glasses, and wild monologues. This alter ego became a mini-series mocking Ross week after week. 50 understood something no one else did. Beef can be content. By turning rivalry into entertainment, he made his haters part of his show and his income stream. He even weaponized humiliation in the corporate world. When 50 wanted to leave Interscope Records, he didn't negotiate quietly. He accused executives of leaking his music, threatened to shelf his album, and even posted recordings of private calls online, tagging the label in every post. The chaos forced Interscope's hand, and they released him with minimal penalty. 50 literally bullied a record label into a better deal using the power of public shame. Then there's Jimmy Henchman, real name James Rosemond. After his drug trafficking conviction, 50 went further, constantly linking him to the 1994 shooting of Tupac Shakur. Whether true or not, the damage was done. Henchman would never just be remembered as a music executive again. 50 rewrote his legacy as the villain of one of rap's darkest chapters. And let's not forget the timing. When 50 dropped Heat, he rapped about Ja Rule and Irv Gotti catching federal cases. A few months later, their offices were raided by the feds. Fans couldn't tell if it was coincidence or clairvoyance, but it made 50 look prophetic, like his lyrics manifested real-world events. That's the brilliance of 50 Cent. His beefs aren't random outbursts. They're carefully timed, strategically humiliating, and always profitable. He doesn't just win arguments. He controls the narrative, turning every enemy into a cautionary tale and every feud into a viral masterpiece.